each day you get to make decisions that will shape the course of your day. And then those decisions will take the shape of a pattern. And it started with small decisions and having an awareness of what you might control that could seem insignificant in the moment. Showing up on time for your activities, or like when you show up late, something like that. It just seemed like a pattern that was well within my control. And learning how to set the right standards with the people around me and follow through on small promises or big promises. And it's something that I think about in my parenting. It's something I think about with my customers. And it's as simple as you say what you're going to do, and then you do what you said you were going to do. And when you control that and you think of these patterns that you're setting, it's being a good leader. It's setting a standard for the people around you.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Aaron Leeder. Aaron Leeder is VP of Business Development and Partnerships at Pavilion, where he drives strategic accounts, sponsorship, sales, and enterprise partnerships for one of the leading GTM executive communities. He was the first commercial hire for Pavilion and helped build GTM into a flagship conference for CROs, CMOs, and CCOs. A natural community builder and storyteller, Aaron blends sales rigor with creativity, humor, and heart. Before Pavilion, he spent 15 years performing professionally in live and studio settings. Today, he channels that same energy into building meaningful relationships, partnerships, memorable events, and vibrant executive networks. Aaron, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Jessy. So nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Aaron, I'm curious, who is someone in your early life or even an early experience that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
Yes, I had this camp counselor growing up. His name was Will. He was with my age group for 4 summers. I was thinking like years like 13, 14, 15, 16, something like that. And he used to lead this talk, if not the first night of camp, the first full day maybe. And it was mostly an expectation setting. And the lesson has really stuck with me in different parts of my life, because he would talk about how life is made up of patterns, and that each day you get to make decisions that will shape the course of your day. And then those decisions will take the shape of a pattern. And imagine we were a group of mid-teenage boys, and we were learning how to be good friends, how to be model campers, what behavior to emulate that we would see from older campers or counselors, or what behavior to avoid. And I remember these talks with Will and this emphasis around controlling the patterns that you would weave through your life. And I think it's helped me in terms of expectation setting with the people around me, whether that's my family or people on my team or my customers. And I always remember that it started with small decisions and having an awareness of what you might control that could seem insignificant in the moment, like showing up on time for your activities, or like when you show up late, this is going to affect the other people around you, and you know where you need to be and when you're supposed to be there. And to me, something like that, it just seemed like a pattern that was well within my control. And learning how to set the right standards with the people around me and follow through on small promises or big promises. And I always think about it. And it's something that I think about in my parenting. It's something I think about with my customers, like the tone that you set. And it's as simple as you say what you're going to do, and then you do what you said you were going to do. And when you control that and you think of these patterns that you're setting, it's being a good leader. It's setting a standard for the people around you.
Aaron, what does true leadership mean to you? I mean, what from your perspective makes a true leader?
I think true leaders have a sense of ownership. That's like one of the core pillars that I think of when I think of true leadership. Owning an outcome, owning an error, being the person to own up and say, hey, I've made a mistake. And I think in business, sometimes people might get confused with a title or how many people do they manage. And to me, that's never really been the marker of leadership. And I place a greater significance in admiring those, whether they're above me, adjacent, or below me in the org chart, that they own their outcome. Those types of leaders, they don't look for excuses. They take action and they drive results.
And from your perspective, what difference does that make? Why does it matter?
What does it matter? I feel like when there's like an initiative or a project that lacks like the person who says like, I've got this one. You don't have to worry about this. This is on my desk, not yours. It kind of settles any ambiguity around like, did you say you were going to do it? Or did I say I was going to do it? And again, it doesn't come down to like, is this in that person's job description? It's just like, does this initiative feel like it has somebody who cares that is they're going to put it to bed. They're going to be the one that makes sure it's complete. I think that's why it matters.
Can you share about a time when you realized that your way of leading or living no longer met the demands of your work and life and really growth was needed?
I can think about a time where I felt like I had a turning point. So it was, I would say like it was through the first age of Pavilion here, and it was the first time I was leveled down. So I reported to the founder for my first couple of years, and that was very exciting to me. And being the first commercial hire, being very close to the top and feeling like I had a seat at the table for the critical business conversations and the direction we were heading, like that was important to me. And there was a pride there, the pride component. And I don't know, maybe like because of the length of time I'd been here, like I felt like I deserved it. I was supposed to be part of that executive leadership team. And then one day I was told I would be leveled under a new head of marketing. But I was also ensured, oh, your input is still very important. You're still going to be a part of the leadership team. And then a few months later, I was told there's enough voices in the room now and that you're no longer going to be a part of the executive leadership team. And I think aside from the pride, what made it really difficult was that over the previous 2.5+ years when I was part of the ELT, you were told and coached, like, you need to have a first team mentality. And the leadership team, that's your first team. And your direct reports, that's not who you're positioning for. You're positioning for the first team and how are you serving the other leaders in your business. And first you serve the ELT and that's your team. And I bought into that and it makes sense and it all sounds great on paper. But when you are leveled down and removed from that station, well then like who is your team? Who is your first team? And I think it was a challenging point for me and like a turning point in I think like my relationship with the company, because I knew I felt valued in terms of what I've been bringing in from a revenue perspective, but it felt like a dig. And it was hard to not take it personally. And I needed to reapproach what I meant to the company and what the company meant to me. And it really wasn't easy. And it probably took like over a year to like fully accept and understand that my role and my contributions were more of a execution-based framework rather than a strategic lens. And I guess how I would turn this into like a leadership story is that I never stopped like trying to put myself out there to the company as somebody who raises their hand when there's a challenge outside their own lane, or to make yourself available to new employees who have questions about how the business works. And I still try to lead with my actions in hopes that you come to work each day, you do the right things consistently over and over again, and you make a positive mark on the other people you interact with. So it's back to like those patterns, and it's like consistency, caring about your work, showing up, following through on the commitments that you've made to the people around you. So I would say
Yeah,
that was
and
like my growing lesson.
yeah. And if I may ask, in that crucible experience, what do you believe you outgrew or let go in order to kind of, hold this experience in a way that seemed aligned with your heart and mind?
Mm. It has to do with that pride or ego or whatever you want to call it, of just like feeling like you came down a level, like you were there where the conversations were happening, and now you find out critical news about the company from your manager, right? And I've always felt like an owner in my role with the company, which I think has helped me be a good leader to those around me. And I guess I had to learn how to still feel like an owner without like owning a seat at that table.
Yeah, and how does, what is what is the impact of this experience on how you lead today? You said who's become the first team. What does all of that look like?
Well, today it's different because I no longer manage people directly. And I think part of that came from like looking at the needs of our business. And I think part of it, I like almost self-identified as like, hey, I've been managing a few people here, and perhaps I'm not the right person to manage them. Um, I think the remote world and career pathing for others, it felt challenging to me, and it felt like it's a hard position to fill effectively, and especially in a world where like a startup, scrappy vibe where you're expected to serve customers and bring on new business and take care of your existing business. Oh, and by the way, a career path for these people who are like building their path. And it's I don't know, I got pretty far away from the question you asked, but I
Good.
feel like that it changed how I approach my work, and the company listened to me when I said, hey, I don't think I should be somebody that's managing at this point in my career. And they said, okay, like you go and you focus on your customers, which I think has been a good decision for me and for our customers and for the business.
Right. And thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself, in your own growth?
So a big part, this relates to my personal growth, but you'll see me get there. But I think a big part is that since we put on so many in-person events for our
Mhm.
community members, it's been important for me to make sure I'm not just showing up at our own programs, but to see what else is out there in the space. So over the past few years, I've really made a consistent effort to show up at others' conferences. And not only is it important to see and meet new people and connect new points of view, and of course, see how others are putting their events together, but I think seeing how others lead these initiatives, like the other event planners, the other sponsorship salespeople, whoever they might be, and the ecosystem it's kind of small. And once like you get out there and you know these people, you understand who the major players are. And I think when I go and I see other people's work, part of the question rises, and like, how is there like a difference in my leadership? It's hard to quantify. Like sometimes there's an affirmation that the way we are thinking about and executing on things is the right way, and it's encouraging. And then sometimes you get this fear that like you aren't doing things the right way. But that it's healthy because it opens up a conversation that you can have with your people when you come back home. And in
Yeah.
any case, I think I don't know, it's a valuable investment of time and energy and money to go out and see these other events through the eyes of the other attendees, the non-pavilion members,
Got it.
but also to see them through my own eyes, but maybe like outside of my own comfort zone.
Yeah. And what difference has that made in your leadership and in your life? These insights by attending different conferences, talking to different people. and really acknowledging sort of your direction and validating your direction. What difference has that made to the quality of your life and leadership?
I think the quality of the life part I'll put as it creates going leaving the home because we're working at home and like 95% of the time you're around your family. We could talk about family too if you'd like. But I think getting out and like creating the space where it's like, well, you've set expectations with your partner, with your family. Hey, I'm going to be gone this week. Don't worry, I'll come back with stickers or whatever it might be. But also like, I need to go out there in the wild and like see what else is happening so that I can be an even better version of myself for my company, but also, you know, for our family. And I think like the things that I learn and the things that I pick up on is you also you get these different level of like candid conversations in person with people out in the wild who are also they're going through their own version of what this journey is, the work-life balance or the conference work-life balance, and be able to ask them questions of, oh, how did you set up your family for success while you were out this week or whatever it might be.
Got it. What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead, Aaron?
So when I think of my legacy at Pavilion, although I've contributed in different nooks and crannies of the business over 6+ years, it really comes down to the impact of sponsorships. So how has that business line contributed to our success? How has it provided stabilization? How has it maybe ruffled feathers over the years? And I hope that when others, either on my team or from the outside looking in, think of my contribution to the community, it's from a lens that the choices we made on monetization through sponsorships were done with the consideration of improving the experience for our members. So it costs money to put on top tier events, whether it's the food and the drink or the experience in a conference hall. And the work that I've done with our sponsors truly has enabled thousands of people to have in-person experiences with Pavilion, which to me is really one of the few moats around AI, and getting together in person with the right people in the right rooms to have the right conversations. All these things have hard costs. So our sponsor bookings helped alleviate that line item on the balance sheet and really create those opportunities for our members.
Yeah, and as you gain more clarity on what is the impact of these conferences and how you need to show up, I'm just curious, what are the ways in which you feel you need to personally grow and develop to realize this future vision that you talked about?
I think it's putting like making the dedication of time and energy to make sure you're going and showing up. And that means that sometimes like putting a pause on other projects, whether they be at work or at home. I think like creating the space to do the things that are important to you, to learn and grow, I think it's critical.
Where do you feel most tested right now? Like what challenges are stretching you the most in leadership and in life?
My growing edge, if you will, is parenting. I think parenting stretches me more than any other facet of my life. It's not even close. And I'm not saying it in a way that it paints a picture that taking care of the marketing departments of high growth B2B SaaS companies is easy. It's not. It's just balancing the need for what you have to be at home for your partner and your children, and what you have, and when you have to be on screen for your teammates and your customers. I think we all try to bring all of ourselves to work each day, and in the post-pandemic remote first culture that I choose to live within, I need to integrate work and life, and it's often challenging. And I try my best to live elegantly alongside my work and work alongside my life. But it's an area that will continue to stretch me and challenge me to grow.
Yeah. And I'm curious about, what that stretch looks like. So what are the ways that you feel you need to grow and develop to meet some of these challenges, this work-life balance and the conferences, etc.?
I think it's knowing when you've overcommitted and make sure to set expectations with the people that are the most important to you. But like, we also need to work in order to make a living. So it's like you set expectations internally in the household, you set expectations internally in the company, and then externally with your external partners and customers. But honestly, I view expectation setting as like one of those things that's very much within our control. That it's like if you say you're going to be at, this is where we're meeting, this is the time, this is the thing that's going to happen, and then you can control that piece, you're building trust. And that's, within your family, within your company, with your external partners and customers. I think establishing trust and living through on your commitments, that's really like a badge of honor for me, and something I take a lot of consideration around.
So this last question is more of an invitation to you. You have this time and space to offer to our listeners whatever it is that's most important to you, so just share straight from your mind and heart. The floor is yours, anything at all.
Yeah, I think, well, thanks, Jessy, for this time. And I think taking this idea of setting the right pattern is a really important one. So by controlling the little things that are within your control, you're helping to set a tone of consistency in your life. So for me, when I set this expectation with myself, I feel it when I'm not being consistent. And I've trained myself. I've become so used to doing the thing that I say, and so used to being on time, and so used to following through, that like when I miss it, like I really feel it. I care about it, and I don't need a reminder from a superior or from a mentor. I've held myself to this standard for a long time, and I've sort of set the table for myself. And I think, setting an expectation to perform consistently, to meet your own standards, you are putting yourself in a position where you can execute to what's important to you. And as it relates to leadership, it's like whether or not you're managing a team or managing an account, the people around you, they can feel that like you're going to do what it takes, not just sometimes, but every single time. And for me, I've set a pattern that I care about the commitments I've made, and I behave like I own my own activities, and I treat my business line like I own my own business line. So my invitation to your listeners would be to, look for patterns in your life and start with things that are most easily in your control. And once you set in motion a pattern that you can control, it becomes easier to reach for that next thing, which might be outside your control. Mm-hmm. And, consistency and care around patterns.
Aaron, I appreciate the wisdom that you've shared with me and our listeners here today. I've gotten so much out of it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. Thank you so much for coming on the True Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Jessy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.